Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be discussing the topic excretion. So this topic is from the class 10th science book. Okay, we have already discussed some of the topics in this lecture. So in the previous lecture we were discussing about the excretory system, the human excretory system, which included the kidneys, then the ureters, then the urinary bladder, and then the urethra, through which the urine is passed out from the body. Apart from this, in the previous lecture, we also studied about the how the internal structure of the kidney looks like. So we studied about the lateral section of the kidney, okay, and we studied about the parts of the kidney, all right, and what parts it is divided into. So the outer part is the cortex, inner part is the medulla, okay, and what does medulla contains? It contains the renal pyramids, okay, and then we also talked about the renal artery and the renal vein, okay, and we also talked about the ureters that come out of the hilum. Now in this lecture we'll continue the previous lecture and we'll be studying about the blood supply in the nephrons. Okay, so nephrons, what were nephrons? They are the structural and functional unit of the kidney. So these are known as the nephrons. We have already discussed about the structure of the nephron. Okay, so it consists of the Bowman's capsule. Okay, we will again study about the Bowman's capsule here. So first, nephrons. So a gentle reminder again, nephrons, they are the structural and the functional unit of kidney. Okay, so human kidney is made up of these nephrons, and this nephrons is involved in the filtration of the blood. Okay, and what is the function? Filtration of the blood. So we have also discussed about the structure of the nephron. So it consists of the Bowman's capsule. Okay, it consists of the Bowman's capsule. Then it consists of the, or you can say Bowman's capsule leads to the proximal convoluted tubule, which is known as the PCT. Okay, so filtration takes place within the Bowman's capsule, and Bowman's capsule leads into the proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, clear? Then the proximal convoluted tubule further leads into the loop of Henle, or you can say Henle's loop. Now we have the descending loop of Henle, and then we have the ascending loop of Henle. And the ascending loop of Henle then merges into, or then leads into what? The distal convoluted tubule. Okay. So this is known as the distal convoluted tubule. So why they are convoluted tubules? Because they are quite twisted. Okay. And then in the distal convoluted tubule, it leads into the collection duct. Okay, where all the urine is collected. Okay, so these are the parts of the nephron. Okay, we have already discussed in detail about this in our previous lectures. So today we'll be talking about the blood supply to the nephrons, how the nephrons receives the blood. Okay, so what happens? Oxygenated blood comes through a special kind of vessels, blood vessels, and then deoxygenated blood, or it leaves the nephrons. Okay, so inside the kidney, the renal artery branches into number of the renal arteriole. So renal artery, we have already discussed about the renal artery. Renal artery, it carries the oxygenated blood. it carries the oxygenated blood. Okay, and it carries blood from what? From kidney towards the, it carries the blood from the heart to the kidney. Okay, so it carries oxygenated blood from heart, not kidney. It carries oxygenated blood from the heart to the kidney. And there is one more blood capillary known as renal vein. So renal vein is just opposite of the renal artery. So renal vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood and it leaves the kidney and it goes towards the heart. So the renal artery, which enters through the hilum, it branches into a number of the renal arterioles. Okay, so inside the kidney, the renal artery, which carries the oxygenated blood, and it is coming from the heart and it is entering the kidney through the notch known as the hilum. This further divides into renal arterioles. So artery divides always into arterioles. So these renal arterioles will also carry the oxygenated blood. Okay, now a branch from a renal arteriole enters the each Bowman's capsule and it is known as the afferent arteriole. Alright, so renal artery divides into renal arteriole and a branch of the renal arteriole, okay, it enters the Bowman capsule and it is known as the afferent arteriole. Okay, so it looks like this. So if this is the Bowman's capsule, okay, it is a cup-shaped structure. Inside here, there is a network of capillaries. Okay, this network of capillaries is known as glomerulus. Okay, so this is known as glomerulus. This is the network of the capillaries, and this region is known as the what? This region is known as the Bowman's capsule, which is a cup-shaped structure. So it is a cup-shaped structure, and we were talking about the renal artery, renal arterioles, and then afferent arteriole. So afferent arteriole enters here. Okay, so this is the afferent arteriole. Okay, so this carries the oxygenated blood and it also carries the nitrogenous waste. So this is the afferent. So arteriole entering the Bowman's capsule is known as the afferent arteriole. Alright, so this carries what? Oxygenated blood. It also carries what? The nitrogenous waste. Okay, it also carries the waste product. And how are these waste product forms? These are formed by the metabolic processes or the biochemical reactions that are going on in the living organism. Apart from this nitrogenous waste, it also contains the water. It also contains the nutrients and all, and glucose as well, some minerals, some salts. Okay, so you can say it also contains salts, some glucose, some nutrients. Now in the previous lecture I've told you the nephrons or the kidney is able to differentiate between the harmful and the useful molecules. So the glucose and the nutrients, okay, and some of the water, they are reabsorbed in the nephrons. Okay, and the harmful materials such as the nitrogenous waste and the excess salt or the excess nutrients, they are removed from the blood and they are thrown out of the body in the form of urine. Okay, so this is the afferent arteriole. Then what happens? Here in the Bowman's capsule, the filtration of the blood takes place. or you can say ultrafiltration of the blood takes place, and then arteriole leaves here, which carries the oxygenated blood. Okay, and what happens? So this carries the, okay, here what will happen? This will contain the pure blood now, because the toxins has been filtered out. This contains the pure blood, alright, which is free of this nitrogenous waste. Alright, this is clear. Now let's move on to the next one. Now, this afferent arteriole breaks up into a network of the capillaries which reunite to form a efferent arteriole. Okay, efferent arteriole, I've already told you. This efferent arteriole, it carries the pure blood now because filtration has been done, and the blood which runs in the efferent arteriole is the pure blood. We were talking about the glomerulus. So what is glomerulus? It is the mass of network of the capillaries in the Bowman's capsule. Alright, this is clear. Now let's move on. Now, the efferent arteriole. Okay, we have already talked about the afferent and the afferent and the efferent arteriole. This efferent arteriole, after emerging from the Bowman's capsule, so this efferent arteriole emerges from the Bowman's capsule and runs a short distance, and it further breaks up into a capillary network which surrounds the renal tubule and rejoins to form a vein. Okay, this is clear. So you can write like this. So efferent arteriole, all right. Now it breaks up into the capillary network, and then it rejoins to form the vein. All right. So it forms a capillary network, and what happens? Then it rejoins to form the vein, a larger vein, and then this capillary network surrounds the renal tubule. So what is renal tubule made up of? It is made up of the Bowman's capsule, proximal convoluted tubule, loops of Henle, and then distal convoluted tubule. Alright, now by reuniting again and again with the other veins of the kidney, it forms the renal vein, which drains into the posterior vena cava. Okay, so this vena cava, this carries the deoxygenated blood. Renal vein also, it carries the deoxygenated blood. So this efferent arteriole, it then reunites again and again with the other veins. Okay, so first we saw that the efferent arteriole, it breaks up into the capillary network, and then it rejoins to form the vein, and then these veins combine with the other veins. Okay, it combines with other veins to form what? To form the renal vein. I've already told you about the renal vein. What is special about the renal vein? So this renal vein, it exits the kidney. Renal vein, it exits the kidney, so it moves from the kidney towards the heart. Okay, and it carries what? It carries the deoxygenated blood. Okay, and then this renal vein, it merges into, or it drains into a larger vein which is known as the vena cava. Okay, so renal vein then drains into the larger vein known as the vena cava. This is clear? So this is the image showing you the blood supply to the nephrons. Here what we have studied, first this is the Bowman's capsule, which is a cup-shaped structure. So this is the Bowman's capsule. Okay. So Bowman's capsule, it is what? It is a cup-shaped structure. It is cup-shaped. And within this Bowman's capsule, glomerulus is present. So you can see this is the glomerulus and this is the Bowman's capsule. And together, this glomerulus as well as the Bowman's capsule, it is known as the Malpighian body. Now, here you can see this is the branch of the renal artery. So we have discussed that the renal artery, it divides into renal arterioles. So first we had the renal artery. So this renal artery, it forms the renal arteriole first. And this renal arterioles, then you can say one of the branch of the renal arterioles forms the afferent arteriole. Alright, this is clear. So here you can see afferent arteriole. So it will carry all the nitrogenous waste. Okay, and the filtration is done in the glomerulus. So filtration is being done here. Filtration of the blood. And the useful molecules are reabsorbed. Okay, and the harmful molecules such as the nitrogenous waste, they are they form the urine and they are exited out of the body or discharged out of the body. Now, after the filtration, here you can see afferent arteriole emerges out. Okay, and the afferent arteriole will then drain into the vena cava in the end. Okay, so this efferent arteriole will in the end will merge into or drain into the vena cava. Okay, this is clear. Now you can see the structure of the nephron also here. So Bowman's capsule leads into the proximal convoluted tubule. Alright, here you can see the branch of the renal vein here. So this branch of the renal vein, it forms a capillary system around the renal tubule. And renal tubule, I've already told you, if we talk about the renal tubule, this renal tubule comprises of what? Bowman's capsule. Okay. It consists of the proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule, and the collecting duct. Okay. So a capillary network is present here. Alright, here, which surrounds this proximal convoluted tubule and the you can see here distal convoluted tubule. Now, here you can see the proximal convoluted tubule, it leads into the loop of the Henle. So this one is the descending loop of Henle, and then we have the ascending loop of Henle or limb of Henle, you can say. Then this ascending loop of Henle, it merges into the distal convoluted tubule. Okay. Then this distal convoluted tubule leads into the collecting tubule, and finally all the urine is drained in the collecting duct. Okay, so this image shows you the structure of the nephron as well as the blood supply to the nephron. So we can summarize that the afferent arterioles enters into the Bowman's capsule. Alright, it carries all the impurities with it, and here in the glomerulus filtration is done, and then the efferent arterioles, it comes out of the glomerulus or the Bowman's capsule, or it exits the Bowman's capsule, and then it merges with the vena cava. Okay, this is clear. Now let's talk about the chemical composition of the urine. Now the urine has been formed. What is the chemical composition of the urine? So normal human urine, it consists of about 95% of the water and only 5% of the solid waste. All right. Now, this human urine also consists of the toxic materials such as urea and the uric acid. Now, beside the normal constituent, certain hormones and medicines like the antibiotic and excess vitamins are also passed out with the urine. Okay, so the excess vitamins I have told you, excess vitamins, excessive salts, and the medicines, all right, these are also passed out with the urine. Now, let's talk about the organic compounds of the urine. What are the organic compounds present in the urine? In the concentration of gram per liter. So, urea is present in 2.3 concentration. Creatinine. So, creatinine is the degradation product of the muscles. Okay. So, this is very important for the muscle building also. When the muscle degrades, creatinine is released. Okay. Creatinine, it is a product made by the kidney also. So, it is a waste product. Its concentration is 1.5. Uric acid. Okay, again, this is a nitrogen containing compound. Then ammonia, again, it's a nitrogen containing compound. Okay, I was telling about you the creatinine in muscle. Okay, so creatinine is produced in the kidney. Okay, ammonia 0.6%. Inorganic compounds. If we talk about the inorganic compounds, again gram per liter. So NaCl, its concentration is 19 gram per liter in urine. Potassium iodide, it is concentration 12.5 gram per liter. This H2SO4, sulfuric acid, is also 1.8 and ammonia is 0.6 gram per liter. Now, normally a man excretes 1000 to 1700 ml of urine per day depending upon the water intake. So, if the water intake is more, urine produced will be more. Okay. Now, its diet also determine the amount of the urine. The climate, okay, whether the climate is hot or whether the climate is cold, that also depends the amount of urine excreted by the humans. Okay. Now, so if the conditions is hot, then there is a lot of sweating and the urine produced will be less. Mental state also. Okay. So, a lot of hormones are released according to your mental state that determine the excretion of the urine, as well as the physiological condition, means the metabolic activities that are going on within the living organism. All the metabolic processes or the metabolic activities. So these metabolic activities, they require what? They require water. Okay. So these are the factors on which the excretion or the formation of urine depends. Now, some other factors are tea, coffee, alcohol, and other beverages. They increase the formation of urine. So, we can say this tea, coffee, and alcohol, they are diuretic. So, diuretic are those substances that helps in the formation of urine. Okay, so more urine will be formed if you take a diuretic. So, tea, coffee, and alcohol, and some other beverages, they increase the formation of urine. Now, let's talk about the working of a nephron. How the nephron works. So, briefly, I've already told you. Now, the main function of nephron is to form the urine. Now, there are three main processes that are involved in the urine formation. First is the glomerular ultrafiltration. So, I've already told you glomerulus is a network of capillaries and filtration takes place in the glomerulus. Now, it is the filtration of the body fluids and solutes from the blood out of the glomerular capillaries into the Bowman's capsule due to the pressure in the glomerulus. So, because of the pressure, this filtration takes place. Okay, so because of the pressure, so what happens? This pressure is very important. Otherwise, there will be no filtration here. Okay, so afferent arteriole, which carries the body fluids and the solutes. Okay, it also carries the toxins and the nitrogen waste. So there is some pressure which is present in the afferent arteriole. Okay, so this pressure is very much necessary, and so afferent arteriole it has some pressure known as the blood pressure. Okay, so this blood pressure is maintained with the help of hormones. If the blood pressure is adequate enough, then only the filtration will take place. Okay, so what happens here? Glomerular ultrafiltration is the first step. In this step, what happens? The filtration of the body fluid and the solute from the blood take place. Okay, and then what happens? All this filtrate then enters into the Bowman's capsule. Okay, due to the pressure in the glomerulus. So glomerulus is the network of capillaries. So there is a blood pressure in these capillaries, and the blood is filtered, and the filtrate is passed on into the Bowman's capsule. So we can write filtrate, or the filtered out fluid is now passed into the Bowman's capsule. Now all substances of the blood are filtered out except the large protein molecules. So here what happens? There are some pores present in the Bowman's capsule. So through these pores, filtration takes place. So these pores are, the size of the pore are not enough to filter out the large protein molecules. So large protein molecules, they remain in the blood only. And you can say the cellular components, RBCs and all, you can see the large protein molecules as well as the cellular components. What are the cellular components? So cellular components are RBCs, WBCs, platelets. So blood is divided into cellular components, and another one is the plasma. So plasma is acellular, it doesn't contain these platelet, RBCs and WBCs. So large proteins as well as the cellular components, they are not filtered out. Alright. Then this fluid in the glomerular capsule is known as the glomerular filtrate. It consists of water, urea, salt, glucose and other plasma solutes. Now blood coming out of the efferent arteriole is therefore thick. Okay, so blood in the efferent arteriole will be quite thick because of this. Now next is the tubular reabsorption. There is reabsorption of water as well as the nutrients and minerals also, and some salts also. So glomerular filtrate contains a lot of useful material like glucose, salts, such that of the sodium and the such as those of sodium, and water is also reabsorbed. Okay, so this is known as the tubular reabsorption. Otherwise, if there is no reabsorption, then you will lose this glucose and salts which are essential for the body, and we will also lose the water. Now, these substances are reabsorbed from the renal tubule. So, renal tubule, what were the renal tubule? It was the proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule, as well as the Henle's loop. So, in different regions of this Henle's loop, in distal convoluted tubule, in proximal convoluted tubule, there is reabsorption. So, in some part there is absorption of water, in some part there is absorption of the salt. Okay. So these substances are reabsorbed from the renal tubule at various levels and in various proportions. Now glucose is also reabsorbed completely from the proximal convoluted tubule. So glucose reabsorption takes place in the proximal convoluted tubule. Now more than 85% of the water is reabsorbed from the proximal, distal and even in the collecting tubule. So water absorption takes place where? It takes place in the proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule and in the collecting tubules. Okay. Sodium chloride absorption, absorption is done in the proximal as well as the distal convoluted tubule. Potassium and phosphate, they are completely reabsorbed from the proximal convoluted tubule, and other substances are reabsorbed that are known uric acid, sulfate, vitamin C and amino acid. These are also absorbed, okay, during the formation of the urine. Now the third one is the tubular secretion. Okay, now we were talking about the absorption, but there are some secretions also, and some of the substances are secreted by these tubules like proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubules. They also secrete some salts in the urine. Now, this occurs mainly in the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct of the nephron. Now, it is an active vital process performed by the cells of the cuboidal epithelium. So, cells, they are special kind of cell, cuboidal epithelium. So, these cells, they line the tubules and these cells are involved in the secretion. So, these secrete additional waste from the bloodstream into the filtrate by the active transport. What active transport means? It requires energy. Okay, it requires energy. Clear? Now, in the process, the substances like the potassium, hydrogen, creatinine, and certain drugs like phenols and penicillin, so these molecules, okay, are also expelled out. These are directly excreted out by the tubular cells from the blood. Now, the fluid which now flows through the last part of the tubule is known as the urine. It consists of the water, urea, uric acid, mineral ions like sodium, potassium, chlorides, and phosphates. All right. Now, let's talk about the artificial kidney. Now we know about the structure of the kidney, internal structure of the kidney, about the human excretory system. We know about the function of the kidney. Now, if a human loses the kidney, then what happens? Then we can replace that kidney. We can do a kidney transplant. So let's talk about the artificial kidney here. Now, in the case of loss or damage of one kidney, the other kidney can perform the functions of both the kidney. Okay, so we only require one kidney. Human can survive with one kidney and the person can lead the normal life. But the failure of both the kidneys, it will lead to death because there will be no filtration of the blood and toxin will accumulate in the body, which will lead to the death. Now, the artificial kidney, okay, is known as a dialysis machine. So, dialysis is done for a person whose kidney is not functioning properly. So, the dialysis cleans the blood of the waste product, thus acting like a kidney. So, dialysis is a kind of artificial kidney. Okay, if we don't want to use dialysis, then what happens? We have to go for the kidney transplant. Now, the patient blood is led from the radial artery of the arm. So, arm consists of a radial artery. The blood is drawn from the radial artery through the machine where the urea and other salts are removed and the pure blood is returned to the vein in the same arm. This is what happens in the dialysis. Now, in the case of the permanent damage of the kidney, what is done? Dialysis has to be performed for about 12 hours twice a week. Okay, and the patients with the chronic kidney failure have been recorded to survive for more than 12 years on dialysis. Okay, but nowadays, diseased kidney may be replaced with the healthy one by the kidney transplantation. So we can go for kidney transplantation. For that, we have to first find a donor. It is not that easy process. So finding a donor will take a time, but kidney transplant is very successful. And after kidney transplant, there is no need of the dialysis. Okay. Now, to lead a normal life, one healthy kidney is more than enough. Therefore, a healthy person can donate his one kidney to the patient whose both kidneys are impaired. Alright, so this was the end of this session. We'll be continuing with rest of the topics in the next section. Thank you very much for listening.